time to see my smiling face in the morning, but I'm gonna have to, let me get this shared out and then I'll be right back. And copy link, do this. Okay, so I'm here. I wanted to know, there's nobody on this, but people will catch up. Hi to the, hey Dave, how you doing? Dave is here, one of my favorite wrenches. Somebody asked me on the previous upload from last night, why did Bob Iger let Kennedy get away? And a lot of people have been asking that question. I'm making coffee and I need to get my pot for water boiling so I can do that. And, I thought for a while that, why does that matter? And then I thought, it does matter. So we're gonna discuss that today over a cup of, no, they haven't paid me to do that, but this stuff is the real deal. I'm not kidding. If you have anybody in your, hey Cross, if you have anybody in your family that's having, well, that just wants to feel better, Rise Coffee is the way to go. And the liver, the actual cow liver supplements are great too. Okay. Why? Well, it's not a secret that Bob Iger was very happy allowing both Kennedy and Kevin Feige a lot of freedom because, and of course, Jon Favreau before that at Marvel, because they were successful. And he's very much the guy that wants to let creatives be who they are. I don't have a problem with that. I don't think anybody should. It's called macromanaging. It's the Reagan way of doing things. And I tend to agree with it. But the problem that Iger has is that he doesn't understand administrating his office. And what I mean by that, you've got to get the best people. And and as a leader, you have to be willing not to be the smartest person in the room. Okay, Reagan taught people that. My old boss on Capitol Hill taught me that. Trump is doing that. Trump is getting people that are actually really good at, I don't give a shit what the Democrats think. The Democrats think if you don't have a Harvard degree and you're not part of the Borg, the cult, that somehow you're a fucking moron. And, you kind of look at them and go, wow, really? Wow, okay. And Iger is just not a good administrator. You have to get the best people. That's what great leaders do, okay? In contrast, all right, I'll give you a contrast historically. Abraham Lincoln switched out generals, and switched out generals. He could not, until he finally got the right combo, Grant and Sherman. And William Tecumseh Sherman is one of my, if not my favorite American military leader. Because he was just, we're going to take the war to the South. This is where we're going to fight it, okay? And they did, and they won. They crippled the South. And I'm sorry, total war. We invented it here in the United States. If you don't like it, Anyway, and then you've got Franklin Roosevelt. I don't agree with his domestic policies, But when it came to, okay, we do have a war we have to fight and we got to win it, he found the best of the best. General Marshall was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. Chester Nimitz, out in the Pacific with, the Devo MacArthur, Dwight David Eisenhower, who was probably the best choice to be the head of Operation Overlord. And, he had the affable, very easygoing Omar Bradley and the wildly successful but very irascible George Patton under him. That's administrating. Okay, that is finding competent leaders to do the jobs. Okay, Bob Iger, and I don't think running a corporation, even a movie studio, would be that different. Okay, Pepsi-Cola is not that different. Running a congressional office. In fact, I will take you with me. I will grab this because I want to show you something. You get a great chief of staff. He hires a great deputy chief of staff, so on and so forth. And you end up being surrounded by people who are competent, who do the job, and are, the ones that, in the former vernacular of the boss at the Leadership Institute, are the 3 a.m. people. They're the ones that are going to be up all night. Okay. And hey, good morning, 007. And I see Jacob Muha's in here too. So I was a staff assistant to this fell apart for some reason. The House Majority Leader. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen this, but this is not even my hair is more of a reddish brown, it's chestnut, but this is him and me. The day the Homeland Security bill to create the Department of Homeland Security was signed, it goes to the Majority Leader, the Speaker of the House. It goes to the Majority Leader and the President of the Majority Leader of the Senate, and the minority, they all sign it. Then it goes to the desk of the President, and if it's something like appropriating money for a new department, everybody shows up and they all watch W sign it. All right, so that was a real kind of a historical moment. Hi, Kim. Mr. Army had a very competent staff. The chief of staff, Brian Gunderson, was great. Everybody was great. And it was a big learning curve going from nonprofits to the Hill, okay? Because everything goes like that. And I'm gonna tell you something, you get paid shit. But that moment right there, and meeting the people I met, observing how these people, these historical figures, kind of run around and do stuff, was worth every penny, and I learned a lot. Okay, so if you've got a teenager and they want to get, a degree in history or political science in college, tell them, you want to learn something, go be an intern on Capitol Hill or go get a job and then work your way up, okay? Because you'll see how the sausage is made, all right? Which is why I get really tired of people who've never even been to Washington. That's a long story. But with Iger, and if this happens, he inherited Michael Eisner's things, including Jon Favreau with Iron Man. And we all know that he was the one that basically started the MCU, and as a young filmmaker. And, for a while there, it looked like Iger had surrounded himself with very competent, knowledgeable people. Not really. When Kathleen Kennedy came on board with Lucasfilm, she had a resume, and it wasn't real. We all know it wasn't real. When you look at the resume of all the successful movies that she was part of, what was the common denominator? The men she worked for, all right? And she's one of those women that I really feel wanted everybody to know that she could do things on her own. And, you know, while The Force Awakens was a barely mediocre movie to terrible, very abusive to the original trilogy heroes, very degrading to what George had created at the end of Return of the Jedi, and very ignorant. You know, you could tell J.J. Abrams wasn't a Star Wars fan, okay? You could tell that. And yet, it made a lot of money. Why? Because the people that went thought they were going to get all three, Han, Luke, and Leia, together, and the movie was going to be about them. But instead, we got a boring 2x4 named Daisy Ridley, an ugly ass, giant nosed aardvark, Adam Driver, and a bunch of mediocre DEI hires. Okay, Oscar Isaac, John Boyega, who I'm gonna probably do an upload about his temper tantrums. But it was successful. I mean, it made money. I mean, Disney, it is believed, walked away with $700 million. And for a movie, that's pretty big. Okay, can I tell you something? You don't make monies at making movies, especially like Star Wars. George Lucas said it best. I made money on the merch, licensing merch. That's where he made his billions. And Disney didn't realize that, I'll get to that, NH. Disney didn't realize that how important that was and how important it was to make characters likable. The moment you see Rey tell Finn she won't hold his hand as he's trying to help her is the moment I said, I don't like her. Okay, now back to NH's question. She was apparently, I surmise, and I think this is somebody in the chat can correct me. Kennedy was only supposed to be an interim leader, and they were going to get somebody new. And after The Force Awakens was so great, Iger thought, well, I don't have to worry about it. She's really good at this. She's who she proclaims herself to be. We'll just sign her on as president of Lucasfilm for 3 years. Oh yeah, he did. He really did. Baz is right. And that was a mistake. Because if I had been advising him, and I mean, Bob Iger, gotta make sure my coffee is ready, because won't it? Oh yeah, we have boiling water. And grab one of these guys. I got new meds. First off, all right, I'm gonna have to set you down. Hi guys. Where was I? So, you know, it took, I think, Rogue One for Iger to realize that Kennedy was not the goddess of filmmaking. Damn it. All right, the goddess of filmmaking that, you know, the trades and everybody else purported her to be. She is, after all, Frank Marshall's wife, and she is the assistant behind the scenes to Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, etc., etc. She worked for Robert Zemeckis, Martin Scorsese, and of course, one of my favorite human beings on the planet, John Milius. And, that's just how it happened. And, it's one of those things where you look at it and go, if she was so good, and a lot of people ask, if she's so good, why did these movies suck so bad? And why were they always over budget? And to me, I hear people blame Disney. They weren't, look, the Suits give people money, right? They give people money and a budget. And if you go over it, you've cost not just Lucasfilm money, you've cost Disney money, you've cost the accountants, you've given the accountants a headache. And from what I've heard, there were all kinds of problems, and I'm going to get to what Dave and Kim are talking about. All kinds of problems on the set of Force Awakens. We all know Harrison Ford had the Falcon's landing ramp land on his foot and he broke it. And there were other things going on. They had reshoots. They were over budget. So, when you think if it made $2 billion, then you add the budget, which was what? I'll say what, $300 million. And then you add the reshoots and the time off while they tried to figure out what to do with Harrison Ford. Then you added marketing, which was half the budget. You've got a movie that probably costs somewhere between $500 and $600 million. And it makes well over what they thought it would make, which is good for them because then they can hide the problems. And Kim is right, and Dave is right. They didn't want J.W. Rinsler to put a blog out talking about the overages, the amount of money that was spent because Kennedy's incompetent leadership and the things that happened on the set. And it's almost like there were signs making this movie that somebody out there in the ether, maybe Anakin Skywalker, I'm being facetious here, did not want this fucking thing to be made. Okay, I honestly believe there are times when God is telling you, this is a stupid thing to do. Don't do it. And he puts obstacles in front of you. And if you don't recognize it, I don't know, maybe it was Satan doing it. I mean, I've heard here's the deal. When they were making Nefarious, all kinds of weird stuff happened on that set. And all kinds of weird stuff happened on the set of The Passion of the Christ, but that's different. This is Star Wars that deals with actual, real, supernatural stuff. But there's shit that happened. And Kennedy could not really deal with the problems that came up. If there were no problems, she probably would have been fine. But the fact of the matter is, I have never seen a film of the size of Star Wars ever not have problems. I mean, you look at Jaws. Bruce broke all the time. You had the feud going on between Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss. Among other things, Spielberg took too long to film it. He was over budget. He thought they were going to fire him. There were problems with filming The Godfather. They were literally $2 million over budget because they didn't have enough money to film in Sicily. Francis Ford Coppola was being threatened with being fired. They didn't like Al Pacino because Al Pacino's that big, okay? And they wanted to fire him. And it's how it was dealt with. And when you look at the people who were behind the scenes, the leadership, you got Al Ruddy producing, you've got Robert Evans running Paramount, and for Star Wars, you got George Lucas directing, and one of the producers, you've got Alan Ladd Jr. There from Fox, 20th Century Fox, and it was Spielberg, and you got the guys over him. Spielberg understood how to get through all this. He was terrified. Okay. In fact, do you know how Quint's soliloquy about the USS Indianapolis, how that came about? Spielberg calls up John Milius and says, "Can you just give me a speech about the USS Indianapolis as Captain Quint?" 10 pages later, he's got this, and it was because Milius is a beautiful writer. He gives it to Robert Shaw, who went, "I can't remember all this." So it went from 10 pages to maybe 2. Robert Shaw took it and rewrote it. And it became one of the greatest actors' moments in the history of cinema. It just was cinematic. May the peace of Christ be with you. How's that? It's Lent. And, that's how it went, okay? And, with The Force Awakens, Kennedy didn't have Steven Spielberg to talk to. Or, George Lucas, because they had run him out. They had run him out completely. And to me, when I see this, I go, the problem was her. The problem was Bob Iger not looking at her and saying, she did a lousy job with The Force Awakens. And we're going to replace her. We're not going to renew her contract. Instead, he looked at the meager profit they made because, look, $700 million is what I surmise without the issues, without the more money being spent. They probably walked away with like $500 million, which again, ain't bad, but it ain't good either. And the less money you spend and the bigger it is, the more money you're going to get back. Again, with a movie like The Force Awakens, you're not going to make money really on the movie anyway. You're going to make it on the merchandise. Keith, if he did, they would still have Reimagine Tomorrow, which has been closed. Okay. All the DEI stuff that Bob Chapek had to fight is gone, which is basically what Chapek wanted to do anyway. But that's a conversation for a different day. So Iger gives her another 3-year contract. We get the horrendous behind-the-scenes garbage with Rogue One, which weirdly enough ended up being the better movie of anything that she made. And I'm not going to give it to Tony Gilroy. I'm looking at Gareth Edwards, and yeah, he did it. He did. It was his thing to do. And the fact, there's a rumor out there, and it doesn't surprise me, that Kennedy, in desperation, went to George Lucas and asked, "What do we do?" And he said, "You've got to have more Vader." And the hallway scene was his idea, and she happily took it over. Now, what's the rule that Ronald Reagan said? It doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as the work gets done. Okay? And that, in the end, is the truth. And that was something he said, I think, to a lot of people that worked for him. And it's something I think that Donald Trump believes. Okay. So you've got Rogue One and all the issues that went on there. Then you've got The Last Turd Burglar, aka The Last Jedi. I want to ask the chat, do any of you guys remember or have any of you guys read that they were on budget when they wrapped? No, they weren't. There were reshoots, lots of them. In fact, it's the only movie I have ever seen. That's been filmed on a first script, and the person that gave the script waddled her tiny fat ass to Kennedy's office and handed it to her, saying, "Oh, that's just so good." Carrie Hart ended up getting fired later that year. The Last Jedi was an incoherent, unhinged, horrible movie that didn't have anything to do with The Force Awakens. You could have easily saved The Force Awakens by actually making it about the Skywalkers, but we got Rey Nobody. Killing off Snoke. The Canto Bight subplot to nowhere. The horrendous misandry, heinous misandry by Vice Admiral Gender Studies, Lesbo Holdo, and Rose Tico mauling Finn. It was just a terrible movie all the way around. Well, yeah, and then H is right, and Dave is right too. The Canto Bight to nowhere. First off, I am a horse racing fan, and the biggest day in sports is coming within a month. The first Saturday in May, the Kentucky Derby, where the greatest 3-year-olds in the world show up to become, one of them will become a Derby legend if he wins it or she wins it. And it's the day I take off from church. I make a big dinner. I grab a bottle of champagne. Everything's ready to go. I am set to watch every race on the race card that day on TV and the big race. Anyway, so it was anti-horse racing, which fucking pisses me off. I own a thoroughbred mare, for fuck's sake. All right. Hey, Musk, how you doing? Anyway, and Keith. So, and then of course, you've got a bad guy that shows up who has no purpose. And it's like, so you took Del Toro, put him in this movie for no fucking reason. There's no reason for it. They don't accomplish a goddamn thing. All right, they don't. It was absolutely fucking stupid. And basically, when I watched it, I thought it was a fuck you to George Lucas and The Empire Strikes Back. The whole thing was it was mean-spirited trolling. And the way they treated Mark Hamill, Cameron, Pasha, and I disagree on this, and that's fine. Mark Hamill didn't seem like he was insane back then as he is now, right? What happened, I think, is he realized they were going to fuck with Luke and take away everything that made him the hero that he was, and take away Mark's dignity as an actor. And Kennedy had no fucks to give, and the reason why, and Mark will never say this, because he was a white male hero. And of course, if you haven't seen it, this is my new cup and the back of it. So, you're kind of looking at it going, didn't anybody go up to Rian Johnson saying, yes, he was. And so was the guy that played Admiral Akbar. He was, yeah, it did make him snap. It made him snap, and you can see it. You can see it in real time. He just lost his shit, and he hasn't been the same since. And, I mean, actors aren't very stable anyway. I'm putting that out there because I know enough people who are actors and who have worked with actors who are like, yeah, they're kind of loony. We're kind of loony people. Yeah, Tim Rose. Yeah. Speaking of Bob Iger, Keith, I'm going to give you a little lesson. Bob Iger isn't woke. If he was woke, Reimagine Tomorrow would still be existing. Okay. The reason why there's a lot of woke shit in the anal cavity of Disney right now that's got to be flushed out is because it was made before Trump. It was made back in 23 and 2022, and that's why. The woke shit and a lot of people on YouTube, like Nerdrotic, Geeks and Gamers, Drunk 3PO, and others, WDW Pro, use it, woke, Star Wars is dead, blah, 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 is because people like you, Keith, go watch those shows and get pissed off. They're doing it for rage porn. They're doing it for clickbait, and they're doing it to make money. Rage porn equals 6 figures, okay? And yeah, it's anger farming. And you can see it on X. There are plenty of conservatives who engagement farm a lot. And a lot of them, I dearly love them, but I put them on so I don't get their notifications anymore, because every third notification that isn't Elon, one of the federal departments I follow, Variety, Vanity Fair, The Hollywood Reporter, or Shitty Deadline, is one of those idiots, okay? If you're not going to put something useful out there, you're just going to scream hyperbole because you never worked on Capitol Hill or in the corner office, and you've never seen things that go into either making a movie, budgeting a movie, or creating legislation. You might want to sit this one out or go back, ask Grok to give you a civics lesson in the United States government. And it's really kind of sad when you think about it that people are so angry with no reason. The tariffs, I won't go into that, but these tariffs are not like the tariffs from almost 100 years ago, the Smoot-Hawley tariff. That wasn't, these are reciprocal, and they're 25%. All right. They're designed to bring industry and investment into the United States. All right. They're not just out there damaging other countries. I mean, look, Vietnam already said, hey, yeah, we're fine. We're going to open up trade, equal trade, whatever. All right. That's what Trump wanted. That's all. Canada is pretty much folding. The EU is throwing a temper tantrum. But They're the biggest welfare whores on the planet and have had their money hands in our wallet since the end of World War II. All right. And they're going to have to learn to live on their own and do their own things. We can't afford it anymore. And we shouldn't. Okay, but this is Star Wars. So then we get Solo, a Soy War story. You know, Iger's got to be upset. Iger's now got to be looking at her like, 2 movies into this trilogy, the second movie doesn't make not half of what we projected it to because it sucks. Okay, the fans hate it. The backlash is real. And I don't know if this woman knows what the hell she's doing anymore. You think so, Bob? And then we get Solo, a Soy War story. Rumors out there that there were 80% done, and she had not seen the dailies, saw the dailies, and went, what the fuck? Meanwhile, Larry Kasdan, who's Nepo baby's son, John, who decided on the spur of the moment that Lando Calrissian is pansexual, and then put sort of a romance between his droid, voiced by the British stick figure, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and him were having some sort of an affair. Well, Star Wars isn't gone forever, and you need to, if you're going to come here, get that out of your head right now. That is something Gary from Nerdrotic put in your head, pounded in there, and now it's there permanently. Get rid of it. You've been indoctrinated. And it's like, so Kasdan is like, Lord and Miller aren't listening to me. This is horrible. Watch the dailies. Shyamalan watches dailies and goes, oh, fuck. From what I heard, Han Solo was turned into, well, she isn't in charge. She hasn't been in 2 years. All right? The Acolyte's basically one of the last things from her you'll ever see. She doesn't have any thing to do with Mando and Grogu. They took away 4 seasons of Andor. Okay. Andor cost too much to make anyway. And you gotta ask, why did it cost so much? Where, I didn't see that on the screen, by the way. But anyway, we gotta go back. And Solo not only bombs, it left a $200 to $300 million deficit. I didn't see it. Mazarus dared me one night to watch it. So I had a glass of wine, and then another glass of wine while I'm watching it, and then a third one. And I'm going, what the fuck am I watching? But here's the deal. You had Han Solo before the reshoots acting like oh man, Ace Ventura. What the fuck? And so she goes to England, fires Lord and Miller, orders the reshoots, and gets poor Ron Howard, who's probably still owed a marker for that, to come in and fix it. And he could not. He could not. What was wrong with Solo? I know American men don't want to be actors in Hollywood anymore. Because it's when you look at American actors, you go from let me see, Adam Driver. I don't care if he was a Marine. My husband spent 30 years in the Marine Corps. He retired as a colonel. is a pussy. He just looks like an emo douchebag. That look came from Twilight. This is what the American actors look like now. Or you get, obviously, effeminate, vegan weirdos like Awful Ehrenreich. And they tried 2,000 actors out for the role of Han Solo, including Anthony Gruber, who's Dutch, who obviously has never eaten soy before, who didn't get beaten down with "you're a boy and you have to you have to understand." Okay, bye NH, see ya. Thanks for stopping by. He's this big. Al Pacino's taller than he is. Harrison Ford. All right, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of lesson in aging. 007, if you talk about Cameron and Polly like that, I'm going to bounce you off here. Okay? You don't talk about my friends like that. All right? Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. Sorry, I didn't mean that. Don't make him go away. He's right. You got to quit watching those people. But you get a guy who's, because he's Steven Spielberg's accountant's son, and he made Spielberg laugh, and he's the first person they ever talked to about playing the role. You put him up against Anthony Gruber, who was Harrison Ford's choice. If you ever put Anthony Gruber up in the family, Harrison Ford's family, he looks like his son. I mean, he really does look like them, the Fords. So you're kind of going, and he can act. You know, Pablo Hidalgo's excuse was, well, he just mimics it. We really wanted to go in a different direction. You mean fucking gay? Fucking beta male cuck? Acting stupid because you think that white men are stupid? Pablo Hidalgo's half white, by the way. Obviously, he hates his white half. And it's like, that's not Han Solo. You give the actual masculine role to a woman whose greatest moments in TV history are having her skinny ass vegan body naked or smiling like this. And that would be Emilia Clarke. And it's like, this movie sucks. And to be a fly on the wall, I'm in there just watching it on my phone because I didn't want to sully the TV. And I'm like going, the fuck is this? The fuck is this? The fuck is this? My husband walks out of his office because he was like, I'm going to watch YouTube. He walks in and says, what are you watching? So I was like, watch this. And he's like, and it's the scene where that droid is telling, I don't know, the character whose name I can't remember, Rat Girl was playing, that Lando was in love with her, or it, or whatever it's supposed to be. And Rudy's like, the fuck am I watching? And he just went, and he walked away. And this is why I am like, this is Kennedy's fault. This the script sucked. Her laziness and not paying attention to what was going on sucked. Her casting, my dog would do better, choosing actors, all right, than she did. Well, I owed Steven. I just said Steven, and I've said this before, Dave will remember. Are you a producer in this movie? No, I'm not. Are you the director for this movie? No. Then mind your own business. I'll cast him as another character, but Han Solo. Have you ever met Harrison Ford? I would ask him that. Have you ever talked to Carrie Fisher about who he is? What about what the fans think? They want a swaggering, cold-blooded smartass. All right, they want a combination of John Wayne, Harrison Ford, and Clint Eastwood. That's what they want. And add Doc Holliday to that. They don't want awful Aaron Yuck, whose daddy was Steven Spielberg's accountant. All right, so what happens? Solo fails. There was a meeting between Lucasfilm California, Lucasfilm England, with the guy that was running Pixar at the time, John. I can't remember his last name. And Kevin Feige, John Lasseter, yep. And they were listening in on the conversation with Bob Iger. So Disney, other studio heads, were aware of the bullshit. Okay? And I wouldn't doubt that even Jon Favreau was listening too. And the recriminations were flying backwards and forwards. And it was after this time, that June, Pablo Hidalgo, for the first time, disappeared after a massive temper tantrum from Twitter. All right. And he was gone for a long time, and then he came back. And then he got himself into real trouble. And then Carrie Hart suddenly just disappeared from the Lucasfilm Leadership Board. All right. The problem that Iger had is that he had a way to fix everything. And that is to say, Kathy, I'm taking all this away from you. All right. Now he's done that, obviously. But for some reason, he's still too chicken shit to tell everybody about it. Now, a lot of you have noticed that Disney stocks have dropped. But right now we're in a correction. It's not a crash. And the people you see crying are bajillionaires who are screaming, my bottom line is hurting right now because of Trump's tariffs. I'm sorry, Reid Hoffman, play me a tiny song on your tiny little sad violin. Who fucking cares? All right? Look at all the companies and countries that are now going to invest in the United States. All right? Greasing the engine of the economy is going to take pain and suffering from the people who have actually caused you and I pain and suffering. All right? The rich leftists like Soros, Hoffman, Gates, etc. Anyway, and Iger, so you've got a dip in the stock market. It's a pretty low dip too. But I would say in the coming week, it's going to be a buyer's market. Disney shares are at 83%. If I was someone like Elon Musk, I'd be buying shares. I'd be buying them. The reason why is because he can leverage a change. Someone, and I've heard rumors of this, so you've got Iger going, if I publicly remove her right now, it's going to hurt shares. And Nelson Peltz and, with Elon and all the rest of these cowboys will show up buying up shares. They'll buy them up. They'll be the ones in charge. And it'll make me look stupid. Bob, letting her get away with all that you've let her get away with made you look stupid. In fact, you couldn't look stupider. So, why? I think there was a will to get rid of her, but there was fear. People with a lot of money are the biggest fraidy cats on the planet. And that's the bottom line. That is really the bottom line. And that's why, hi Mike, on one part, Iger didn't want to get rid of her. Also, woman, with her reputation, getting pushed out of Lucasfilm. Look, Matt Bellany, put a 1 in the chat if you guys saw what Matt Bellany did after he dropped She's Leaving. Did you see what he said about the reporter, the Kennedy, and her PR guy? He ripped them to shreds. Said, I don't have any time for getting into an argument with a pissant reporter who lives for living in the anal cavity of producers in Hollywood. And then he ripped Kennedy, and then he ripped her idiot PR guy who had been running around Hollywood begging to get Kennedy's side of the story out. All right. Kennedy, is the product of the guys not wanting to make her feel left out. And she's the product of, she has been protected. I'm going to give you a little bit of a basic, kind of a little bit of history, and then I'm going to talk to Keith about what he just said. Because I love the prequels. I don't know why anybody had a heart attack about Jar Jar Binks, and I think it has a lot to do with how Hollywood hates George for George telling them to go fuck themselves on several occasions. And he really did that too. Do you guys remember The Twilight Zone, the movie? And the actor Vic Morrow? He played a guy, a reporter or somebody. I haven't seen it in a long time. I actually went to it when I was a kid, who ends up in Vietnam. And one night they were filming, they had two Hueys that they were using, or helicopters they were using to do a scene. And the rumor was everybody on the set was coked out. Everybody on the set was coked out. Kennedy wasn't on the set. You know who was on the set? I know Dave does. I'll bet you Cross does too. Keith might. Frank Marshall. Who's Frank Marshall married to? Kathleen Kennedy. Was Spielberg on the set? He and George were the executive producers. And it was, oh, good one, you guys. Good one, Cross. It was John Landis who got all the blame for this, or yeah, John Landis, I think, right? And the accident happened. All three, Vic Morrow, the kids, all got decapitated by one of the helicopters that crashed. Massive safety failures. And as we've seen with Alec Baldwin, if you're not paying fucking attention to every little detail, you will have a problem with people dead on your set, right? Frank takes the private jet, flies to England, goes into, I think it was the Ritz in England, or maybe the Dorchester. And U.S. Marshals show up to bring him back so they can talk to him about what went on. Frank finds out, he meets the marshal in his room, says, okay, I'll meet you down there, just let me pack. Packs up, leaves by another route, runs to Heathrow or a private airport, gets on another jet, flies to Paris, where he can't be touched. And I don't know how long he spent there in gay Paris, but there's always been something about that moment that has always made me look at Kennedy and him and how arrogant they both been. And you guys, I called her out on one of his Instagram posts and he responded, okay? So you get both of them if you get one of them, all right? And what else is going on here? You know, I know Spielberg had affairs on Amy Irving with Kate Capshaw. I don't give a shit. Okay, I got no shits to give. Okay, and there are rumors about the Poltergeist set, but Spielberg again was the executive producer. How much was he really on that set? All right, those are rumors that people who haven't been to a movie in 50 years like to put out there so they can shore up their hate of Hollywood. Okay. You know, the greatest art, you know, the film industry is the greatest art on the planet. Okay, bye, Dave. And we've got Iger, and does that have anything to do with why Kennedy's still there? And why would it? Okay, why would it? All right, is the statute of limitations run out? I don't know, but that could be something. All right, the fact that she's a woman and she has this reputation, and if they push her out publicly, she'll go, oh, they're discriminating against women, blah, blah, blah. In fact, she threatened Iger with that. 3rd of July, 2023, after Indiana Jones came out to bombing, poor Harrison, she was called into the office. It could have been a Zoom meeting too. And basically, Iger wanted her to explain why Indiana Jones failed. So instead of explaining why she sucks, she blamed him and called out him for not going after Kevin Feige. And I think everybody knows he probably did. All right. But Kevin, and this is really hard for me to say, obviously is a classier individual than she is. Okay. So you've got that going on. And basically, Iger got pissed. He's pretty much a low-key dude. And he was like, duh. Meanwhile, 2023 is when Iger decided, I'm fucking done with her. We're gonna figure out something to do. The day that they did Thursday previews, the week before, I'm sitting in my car, going through X, listening to music, and I get a phone call from Cameron. You won't believe this, I just got a call from Sparrow. A bunch of lawyers, there were 5 of them, showed up. Apparently, this is a rumor, from Sparrow. They're you know, just telling Cameron what they'd heard, and wanted everything on the server. And the rumor was Kennedy had been bounced from the server. All right, now I think she's back. I'm not sure. And I was like, and then, the rumor was movers showed up and started moving things out of the corner office, which was her office at the studio headquarters in San Francisco. There was another rumor that she showed up secretly and met with lawyers and Favreau. This is all really convoluted and just rumors. But considering that she has only had one real public appearance, and that was at the Dodgers game last year, and on May the 4th, and then she was interviewed. I don't even know if it was what she said was current about Leslie Headland being dragged by the fans. Like, you're the one who hired Harvey's former personal assistant. And as a fellow woman, that insults the hell out of me. I'll go completely Nancy Mace on her. All right. I'm not kidding. Yeah, the Five Horsemen, the Nazgul. And the head one was called the Witch King of Burbank. But the last public thing that she said was that incoherent, rather insane gobbledygook. She gave an interview to that butt-kissing reporter from Deadline. Now, if you notice, no one said a word since. Bellany ripped him a new asshole, all three of them. That was it. So now we've got catch up to date. Gina said that her trial date is being pushed back to February. Now, I did a video on it last night. Please go watch it. I'm not going to get into it. There's a lot involved. In fact, her lawyer, and I checked that law firm out. They're a DC law firm, and they're hard asses. Okay. And from what I've seen, they have won cases in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. These guys make great white sharks look timid. Okay, I'm not kidding. He said something publicly about it. And it's like, are they daring Elon to cut the funding for this lawsuit? That would be stupid. I mean, when Elon told Bob Iger to go fuck himself, he meant it. Go fuck yourself. And I'm pretty sure he's saying that now. It's not like he can't afford to do this, okay? And he is the one, not Gina, putting up the money, okay? He's the one. And it's not like Gina doesn't have money. Her parents were wealthy. And, like the Pablo Hidalgo's love, calling her dad out for being a casino owner in Las Vegas because, mafia, because he's Italian. Do we have to call the Italian American League to go off on him? Send some Goombas over to straighten him out? All right, that was racist. That was ethnocentric bullshit. Okay, and I won't tolerate it. Okay, but that's where we are right now. The Karen McCarthy thing, they have gone to Discovery, and that lawsuit was amended to reveal fraud and criminal fraud, I might add. But nothing about Kennedy since her brain fart in public. I know we got Celebration coming, and no Ray movie, no Sean Levy, anything. And then there she is with her imaginary things, thinking she could force Disney like she forced them with The Acolyte. I think Disney looked at it and said, what can we do that won't hurt the franchise? And also, this just occurred to me. You're Disney. You're looking at all this, and you're starting to hear through the grapevine in your law offices that the line producer was hired and there wasn't a green light on the show, and she was in England looking for an apartment to rent. And they never told her that they weren't going to use her. And she's starting to ask questions. Now, I had heard Headland actually broke down and had to tell her. So I'm like going, okay, well, I don't know. Did we get it right or wrong? But you're sitting there as Walt Disney lawyer going, Bob, this is going to come and bite us in the ass if we don't do something. This is fraud, and they're going to come after us for it. And and basically it almost looks like a setup. When I think about it, allowing the Acolyte to go forward almost looks like a setup because it was a failure. It makes Kennedy look stupid, and all the garbage, all the lies can come out in Discovery, and they have. Anyway, so, is Iger capable of innovative thought? No. Watch the TV show on Paramount Plus, The Offer. It's a very fictionalized account of making The Godfather according to the recollections of Al Ruddy, who was the only producer on the show. Because you'll see the difference in the fight creatives like Francis Ford Coppola had with guys like Bob Evans. Bob Evans was a creative, though. He understood. And he'd eventually bend to their will once he realized that they weren't going to back down. The problem they had were the guys that owned Paramount, which were the guys at Gulf and Western who had to give the $6.5 million to make The Godfather. And that was a guy named Charlie Bluthorn and other suits. And they'd act like they understood and then get manipulated not to understanding. And then saying, I don't want this, fire this guy, blah, blah. So the fight is always going to be between guys who are very linear in thinking, who look at the books. And another one of Iger's weaknesses is he likes the cocktail parties, and he likes being, the schmoozer with, the Sydney Sweeneys and the Scarlett Johanssons of the world, and the Robert Downey Jr.'s. Do you know that guy eats bugs? Ick. Anyway, I gotta rock. Okay, but watch that TV show. Binge it. It's really, really good, by the way. And you'll understand what is what happened. Okay, and that George was right. Executives are stupid. All right, and all you need is one executive at a Robert Evans, an Al Ruddy, Alan Ladd Jr. to make the case for the creative, okay? To see what the other executives who are morons don't see. But anyway, I gotta go, because I really gotta go. I gotta get a birthday card, etc. It's for the lady that owns the barn that Kay lives in, and she's 90 years old, and she likes to play slots. So I'm gonna give her $20 in quarters, I think, because that was asked for. All right, anyway, or 20, maybe $30 in bills in a card. So anyway, I gotta rock. I'll see you guys around the galaxy. Go watch the uploads from the last couple of days, because the algorithm is killing me right now, and I'm like really getting pissed off about it. I also think it doesn't help that the bigger channels are trying to squash dissenting views. So, thank you, Keith. I'll see you around. Ta-ta. Have a happy Saturday. And again, like, share, subscribe, watch all the video uploads, and I'll talk to you later.